What is up, everybody? It is Grand Prix GP02 here, coming to you once again from the north end of Houston, Texas. And this week, my thumb is greener than ever because I've been driving around in the 2017 Kia Niro.
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you.
All right, everyone, so let's get to it, and we begin today by getting to know what is under the hood first. Now, powering this compact hybrid crossover is a 1.6-liter direct-injected 4-cylinder engine mated to an alternating current permanent magnet synchronous electric motor. This also works in conjunction with a 1.56 kilowatt per hour lithium polymer battery cell. The end result is 139 net horsepower and 195 combined pound-feet of torque. Now, unfortunately, my top-of-the-line touring trim level that I have here today is not the most fuel-efficient one in the family. That title belongs to the Niro FE at the lowest end of the scale, rated at 52 miles per gallon in the city and 49 miles per gallon on the highway. You spend the money and get the top-of-the-line touring trim here, that drops to 46 in the city and 40 on the highway. Now, pretty much all Niro trims will come standard with keyless access put through a rather nice pocket-sized key fob. You've got all your typical functions: lock, unlock, trunk, and panic, and a small retractable key blade which can be released at the touch of a button out of the bottom of the fob. It works like any other keyless access. Just have the key in the vehicle, put your foot on the brake pedal, and hit the button on the dashboard to supply power. Now, in terms of design, I will say that the Niro is not exactly the best looking hybrid that I've ever laid eyes on. And at $30,500 as tested here, it can be a little bit on the expensive side as well, especially when you compare it to even cars such as its sibling, the Hyundai Ioniq. Now, even though my tester is the baseline touring trim, the Niro does still have quite a lot to talk about here. So, at the front, we have these automatic halogen projector headlights as standard. However, these can be upgraded to HIDs if you so desire. These are surrounded by the LED light guides, also as standard on pretty much every trim. And you also have things on my touring trim, such as the standard LED daytime running lights and also the standard fog lights. My touring trim also rolls in the front and rear parking assist, as noted by the sensors lining the front and rear of the vehicle, and then pretty much dominating at least the upper half of the front end of the Niro is a large gloss black trimmed version of Kia's Tiger Nose grille. Now, even though not every part of the Niro's design is to my liking, one of the things that stood out to me from every angle are these wheels. These are the 18-inch machine-faced and painted aluminum alloy wheels that are standard on the Niro Touring. Now, they're riding on 225/45 series rubber, and even though they are rather large for a hybrid's wheel compared to some of the other ones which ride on thicker sidewall tires and things like that, they do provide a very comfortable ride, very quiet, and not too much road noise when you're actually traveling at higher speeds. Now, you do have a 4-wheel disc brake setup behind as well, and this does include regenerative braking. So basically, it takes the energy generated from the brakes and sends it right back to the battery pack as extra power. Now, aiding in that comfortable hybrid-like ride, we do have a McPherson strut suspension up front and a multi-link independent suspension setup in the rear. Now, at only 171.5 inches long and about 61 inches tall, including the roof rails, the Niro is still very much a compact vehicle in and of its own right. Now, Kia has been known for making some pretty quirky looking cars over the years, and even though I was picking on this thing's design earlier, one of the things I actually like is the fact they went for a small wagon look rather than the typical small hatchback or a small sedan like a lot of its competitors. Now, in terms of features down the sides here, I actually have the key in my pocket, and as you notice, I walk up and these power folding body colored side view mirrors actually present themselves along with some small little LED lights hidden here inside the door handle. So it's basically waiting for you to come and unlock it. Now, if you press the unlock button here on the door, That just simply opens it, but you hit it again, and as you can see, the mirrors will fold right back in, no problem. Now also, as you can see, these do have LED turn signals integrated into the side, and you can't quite see it because the mirrors just folded in, but we do have blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert as standard here on my baseline Touring. Now, moving up to the roof real quick, this Touring trim that I have also does come standard with a small but usable power tilting and sliding sunroof. But really, I'm not even complaining because this is a $30,000 car, not a $70,000 car, so I'm not even worried that it doesn't even have a panoramic sunroof. Now, just like the front, the back of the Niro is not exactly the best looking thing I've ever seen, and dare I say it, kind of plebeian in a way or two. But we do have full LED taillights going all the way across here. We do have things such as the Eco Hybrid badge, letting people know that you're being a true tree hugger in some cases. And again, you also do have things such as the rear park sensors that line the rear bumper of the vehicle. Now, we do have a backup camera in this case, and oddly, it's located right here next to the motor for the rear windshield wiper. So that is kind of a cool little place for them to have it. But again, not too much really to talk about here around back. Now, if you are a bit eco-minded and you don't exactly mind the fact your car looks properly crazy, then the Niro still is a very viable option when it comes to buying into the hybrid market. Now, mainly the thing I think it has going for it is still its wagon shape. It just doesn't look like a lot of the other hybrids that you'll find out there on the market. But it is, as they say, looks are not everything, and the next place we're going to stop is in the inside. Now, keeping in mind the Niro's price bracket that it sits in, one should really not expect the most luxurious of interiors when you open the door. However, in typical Kia-esque fashion, you will find that the company still does offer you quite a lot of options as standard, regardless of which trim level you pick. In the case of our top-of-the-line Touring trim level, even with no additional options added, we do have quite a lot of stuff as standard, including these perforated, heated, and ventilated leather-bound seats. I do love this light blue color contrast stitching, which seems to be kind of a theme with the interior. It's not only on the seats, you also have the painted accents around the air vents, and even a little bit of it here on this leatherette-bound armrest here on the door. Now, being a hybrid, and again, being in the price bracket that it is, I wouldn't say that the aesthetics are up to par compared to a lot of today's competitors. You do have a lot of typical plastics in a lot of areas, such as on the upper part of the door here. You do have a nice bit of gloss black piano black accent, to break it all up. But you do have a lot of nice technology as standard equipment. Again, you do have a two-person memory setting for the driver's seat here on the Touring trim level, which is multi-way power adjustable. You have two-way power, two-way lumbar, recline, and then of course your multi-way height adjustment and distance. Now, as far as everything else, you do have the power folding mirrors, which I showed you before. You just flick the trigger and they automatically fold in and out. You also have the regular power mirror controls, window locks, power door locks with the keyless access, as I showed you before. Both of the front windows are automatic in both directions. All four of them kind of would have been nice, but then again, that's just a nitpicky thing. And then of course you have your rear power windows as well. Now, despite what its shape may suggest from the outside, getting inside of the Niro reminds you that it still is very much a car-like vehicle compared to a compact crossover. The entry and exit height is very easy to get in and out of, and it really doesn't feel like you fall into it too much compared to some of its competitors. Now, I really was not kidding when I said that Kia really does offer a vast amount of features for the cash, and you would expect that in a top-of-the-line trim like my Touring here, and you find things such as this leather-trimmed 3-spoke multifunction steering wheel, again as standard equipment here. It is also adorned with all of your different creature comforts, such as Bluetooth with voice recognition, hands-free radio, the controls for your liquid crystal display up there in the gauge cluster, and also things for your cruise control. Now, my tester again does not have any additional options, which means it is missing the $1,900 Touring Advanced Technology package, which would add in the active cruise control system along with a handful of other electronic active safety features. Now, as far as the driving feel, the motor-driven power steering system in this is very light, it's very easy to maneuver, and it really doesn't feel very weighted. However, it is steering responsive, so the faster you go, the more it actually tightens up and allows you better driving abilities. Now, the steering column itself is tilting and telescoping, so that is a nice little function. But then moving up to the gauge cluster, it is a very unique gauge cluster to look at. Like I said, you have your power meter over here on the left, which that little blue portion is for the regenerative braking only, which shows you how much you are sending energy back to the battery. When you're driving, you'll normally be in this green eco area most of the time, unless you really put your foot down, and then you'll be up in that gray power area. Now, this car does have a sport mode, and it only happens when you put the 6-speed dual clutch automatic transmission into its sport setting and take control of it that way. It does actually make the car feel a little bit peppier. It makes it feel a little bit easier to drive, but it's not exactly the fastest car in the world, as I said, making only 139 horsepower. Now, continuing on with features, over here to the left of the steering column, we do have the standard blind spot monitoring with lane change assist and rear cross traffic alert. You also have things such as instrumentation dimming and traction control, but crucially, you have this little button here which says 12-volt battery reset. If you let this car sit for a little too long, unfortunately, the battery will cut itself off, thus saving it from draining completely. But you simply hit that 12-volt battery reset, and it will bring the car right back as if nothing had ever happened. Now, moving over here into the center console, my touring tester that I have here does come standard with this 8-inch touchscreen display. Now, that comes standard with things such as Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and it also comes standard on the touring with a rather dated-looking navigation system. Now, keeping in mind that the Niro has already gone into its 2018 model year, for this 2017 model, again, it just looks a little out of place. It really doesn't look as modern as a lot of navigation systems that I've seen in some of the other products coming from both Kia and Hyundai. In typical Kia fashion, this touch responsiveness is okay. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but as far as everything else, everything is still well within reach. You could still scroll everything like a smartphone, which, as you can see, it can be a little glitchy at times. It's not exactly as smooth, again, as some of the other more modern Hyundai and Kia products that I've tested, but you also have this interesting thing where you can go into the sort of eco mode, or the eco screen, if you will. You can see your average fuel economy. It has this cool little tree that tells you how fuel efficiently you're driving, and it even shows the energy flow, whether or not the gas engine's kicked in, whether you're just driving on the electric motor and the battery, so on and so forth. Now, as far as the sound system, that is one thing that I really love about my tester here. It comes with an 8-speaker Harman Kardon premium audio system with Clarify music clarification and a factory subwoofer. Now, like I said, if you're a music head like me, turn up the bass, and I think you're in for a pleasant surprise. Now, I don't know about you, but that Harman Kardon system sounds absolutely awesome when the right song is playing. Now, aside from all the other stuff that I've showed you, this car does come standard with Kia's UVO, or Your Voice, telematic system. So you have things such as roadside assistance, vehicle diagnostics, and so on. And again, it's pretty typical Kia equipment once you start exploring things from there. Down below the touchscreen system, we do have all of the physical buttons which can control certain functions in here, such as the map and navigation, Bluetooth phone, screen setup, and everything else, radio, Bluetooth media, as I was showing you before, and also things such as your Seek Track buttons. And of course, you also get that physical power volume knob and tuning knob, which we absolutely love. No touchscreen interface or anything like that as far as that is concerned. Moving down below that, though, my touring tester does come standard with an automatic dual zone climate control system here, which does include Kia's Clean Air Ionizer and Purifier. It's basically a clever filtration system which allows you to breathe the cleanest air possible. Now, all the functions are pretty straightforward. You have your temperature controls on either side. Fan speed is down here between the off and the climate button, which actually allows you to see your temperatures, fan speed, and so on. Over here on the right, on the passenger temperature control, you have the sync button, which when you turn the driver knob here, it will control both the temperatures at the same time, or it will allow the driver and passenger to control them independent of each other. You do have your different climate zones right here on the far right, air conditioning, recycling, introducing the AC, as well as the front and rear defroster. You also have this little button over here which allows the air conditioning to be set just specifically for the driver, so that's kind of a neat little deal there. But moving down below the climate controls, you also have the standard iPod and USB connectivity ports. Now, with the Touring Advanced Tech Package, you can also get a wireless charging pad for wireless charging capable or compatible smartphones, but again, as I said, my tester doesn't have that, so it's just a nice little empty cubby down here. But also you do do have the two 12-volt 180-watt outlets to go along with it. Now moving back just a little bit, we get to the selector for the 6-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. Now this is a true benefit for Hyundai and Kia these days because unlike a lot of other hybrids, it makes it feel like you're driving a much more normal car. None of that rubber band kind of performance that you get from a lot of the other hybrids which use a traditional continuously variable automatic transmission. Now like I said, it does come with a sport mode, so that is kind of a drive mode select. So when you pull the shifter all the way back and knock it over into the sport setting, as you can see up here on the dash, you get a nice little S and the orange sport icon. Otherwise, if I flip it over, it goes right back into its normal eco setting. There is no normal in here, so you're either in eco mode or sport mode, nothing really in the middle. Now like I said, you do have a backup camera which does actually have a pretty decent view out of the back. It kind of looks a little stretched due to the camera's position, but you do have trajectory, so when you turn the steering wheel, as you can see, the lines will follow whichever direction you go. And one of the funny things is, I don't know how well you can hear it, but when you put the vehicle in reverse, there's actually a little chime that plays in the rear of the vehicle that lets you know not only that you're in reverse, but I think it also projects outside to let other people know that you're backing up as well. Just see if you can hear it for a second. It's very faint, but it is a very interesting deal that you have that little chime when you're backing up, because this is a partially electric vehicle, so you don't want to be running anybody over because they don't know you're actually moving or that the vehicle's on. Now, other than that, when you put the vehicle in any gear other than park, you do activate those automatic safety locks, as you can see, and when you put it back in park, they automatically open. Now, to the left of the shifter, you do have the controls for your front and rear parking assist, which you can turn on or off as indicated by the little light there. Now, moving even further back, you do have two pretty sizable cup holders here. As you can see, we've got the key fob in one of them, but just to the left of those, you do have the controls for the 3-stage heated and ventilated seats for both your front occupants here, as well as the control, like I said, for the heated function on this leather trimmed steering wheel. Now, I haven't used the heater yet, so I don't exactly know how that works. However, I will tell you that the ventilated and heated seats have come in real handy with the sort of bipolar weather that we've been having here in Texas recently. Now, if you move back from that, you do have a small leatherette bound center console with another little active charger located down there in the middle. Now, that is charge only. It's not like a data connection like the one you get down here. So if you want to charge your phone, my suggestion, you use the one down here in the middle. Now, because Kia went for a small wagon shape rather than a hatchback or sedan, getting into the rear seats actually reveals there is quite a substantial amount of room back here. I have the driver's seat in the position where I would actually be driving it. I'm 6'1", so I'm not exactly small, and I do have a nice bit of room here between the front of my knees and the back of the seat, and it actually helps that the back of the seat is indented here, despite the fact it's made of plastic. Now, you do have small mesh mat pockets here in the back of each of the front seats. However, you do not have anything like active USB chargers here in the rear, or especially things like heated rear seats. I believe that's an option. I'm not sure. I'll have to check the options list on that. But compared to a lot of its competitors which offer things like that, it is a little bit on the plain side here in the back of my test vehicle. Now, as far as the seats themselves, they are 60/40 split fold, and we do have a nice little armrest here for the two outside occupants to rest their arms on. And if you want to fold those seats down, the triggers are located in the upper corners of each of the seats. Now again, due to the shape of the Niro, getting things into its cargo space is definitely not a problem either. You open up this rather sizable rear hatch here at the back, and you're revealing 19.4 cubic feet of space initially. Now that is a little bit down compared to the sibling, the Hyundai Ioniq, which I think is about 23 or 24 cubic feet of space to start. However, again, with it being a small wagon, and with having those 60/40 split fold rear seats, you can then extend that to 54.5 cubic feet, which is pretty much on par with some of today's compact crossovers. Now, you do have some under storage under the floor here, but it's really not much. Maybe things for like your books or maybe some clothes or something like that if you're going away for a weekend. But I would say that the majority of the space is going to be up here in the middle. So it's not just spacious in terms of its occupants, it's also spacious in terms of cargo. Now, because the Niro is a wagon, and wagons sometimes are used by families, safety is also a concern. Now, aside from the usual array of airbags, things such as the dual front impact, side curtain, and side impact airbags that come as standard here, we also do have an array of available and also standard safety features on a lot of the different trims. Now, like I said, for the final time, my touring trim does come standard with the blind spot detection with rear cross traffic alert and lane change assist. However, it does not have things such as the automatic emergency braking, radar cruise control, or the lane keep assist, all of which are a part of the advanced technology group for an extra $1,900. Now, getting inside and trying to shut out the noise out here, in the passenger compartment, it still feels just as comfortable as the driver's seat. Unfortunately, there's no power adjustments here for the passenger, just for the driver. So, unfortunately, passengers, you're going to have to do without your powered creature comforts here, but I really don't think that's a big issue. As far as the glove box is concerned, it is damped in a slight way, not lined and felt. This is only a $30,000 car after all, but it does have a decent amount of space in there, at least enough for maybe maps, books, napkins, and a few other odds and ends, but it's not the most deep or wide glove box that you will ever feel. But during my week of testing, the Niro has actually been a very nice car to drive. Sure, it doesn't look the greatest, and it's not exactly the greatest thing in terms of speed, but if you want a vehicle that can seat 5 people comfortably and get over 500 miles on a tank of gas and have the capacity to pretty much take anything anywhere, then the Niro definitely would be on my list. And unfortunately, on that note, everybody, our time here with the 2017 Kia Niro Touring has now unfortunately drawn to a close. I do hope everybody's enjoyed this review as much as I've had fun making it for y'all. Now, if you guys like what you see, please do give this video a thumbs up, and also be sure to click that subscribe button down below for many more videos like this and more to come in the future. But in the end, a huge thanks goes out once again to the folks at Kia for lending me the keys to another one of their awesome vehicles for a week of fun-filled and fuel-efficient testing. But in the end, guys, this has been Grand Prix GTP02 from the north end of Houston, Texas, signing out until next time. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.